No rush, no noise, just honesty. This is where the day ends and honesty begins. So, I guess it's been 10 days since I did one of these. Sometimes you gotta take a break. So, this is episode 18. I cut a chunk off of the tip of my finger today. I just got literally 15 minutes beforehand, had just got done sharpening my knives. And while I was in the midst of cutting up flat leaf parsley, I cut a chunk off of the tip of my finger. I don't know how many of you have cut chunks of your finger off, but the very tip of your finger bleeds like a son of a bitch. It bled. I had blood all over the fucking place. I mean, I was so fucking irritated. I was in the middle of cutting everything up for, I had finished cutting everything up for stuffed mushrooms. And the last thing I had remembered at the very end was cutting up the flat leaf parsley. And was rushing through slicing up the parsley and cut the chunk of my fucking finger off. Not like, now that sounds like it's a huge amount of the finger. It's not. It was about 1/8 of an inch wide, about 1/2 of an inch long, and 1/16 of an inch deep. So any construction worker will know exactly the size of the chunk of my finger that I cut off. Needless to say, the tip of the finger bleeds horrendously. And what's worse is the only thing that staunches the bleeding in the beginning, aside from direct pressure, is cold. I don't know if you've ever cut a chunk of any body part off and stuck it under cold water. It fucking sucks. Oh, it's horrible. It didn't even matter. I had my finger underneath the fucking faucet and blood was just sluicing out of my finger. It was everything that I could do to staunch the bleeding enough to slap 2 finger band-aids on my finger to put pressure on it. And then put my hand in a glove because I still had to finish cutting parsley. Now, I will say, I threw away the parsley that I was cutting up and the chunk of my finger that was sitting amidst the parsley into the garbage and sterilized everything and then continued. But doing everything with one finger up like this while you're trying to cut and do anything sucks, because you just really don't realize how much you use your middle finger until you can't use it. Now, I use my middle finger to point, so that's not a big deal, but you don't realize how much of a gripper in everything you do with your middle finger until you fucking can't. So I've talked about the Dresden Files, the books here and there. I think I talked about it a couple of different times, just blithely. But I finished book 12 tonight. It's called Changes, and it's considered one of Jim Butcher's pivotal books in his series. And this book fucking wrecks me every time I listen to it. So, to put it on par, there is a movie. Damn, what the hell is it called? Shit. Son of a bitch. Fuck. Why can't I think of the damn movie? So the book, Lonesome Dove. The book was written by Nick Murtry, but they made a movie of it. And my dad will watch the movie every, I don't know, 3 or 4 years or so. But the movie, the series, so they made it like a series of movies. I think it's like 5 movies long. And there's one character in the movie that my dad identifies with and relates to. And the movie itself, Lonesome Dove, is a really rough movie to watch. It's filled with loss. And my father will watch the movie series, like I said, maybe once every 4 or 5 years. And the reason that he only watches it once every 4 or 5 years is because that movie series wrecks him for weeks. And it depresses him for weeks. At least a week, maybe sometimes 2. Sometimes, I mean, we come across movies or books that affect us or that we relate to in a way that affect us in a very visceral manner. And that movie series affects my father that way. That's the same way that the book Changes, book 12 of the Dresden Files, affects me. It wrecks me every single time. I've listened and read it 3 or 4 times, and it wrecks me every single time. I have to take a break from reading or listening to books for a little while. You know, and just a quick summarization. I'm not going to go into everything. It's a fictional series, and it's about a guy that realizes, this particular book, it's about a guy that realizes he has a daughter, and she's been kidnapped. And it's literally about a man who is willing to do anything to save this little girl. He's willing to become one of the monsters in the dark to save her. It doesn't have to be nonfiction. It doesn't have to be an autobiography. It can be fiction. And as a father, I can relate to it. Especially for my own kids, to protect and save my kids, I would become the bringer of death to this planet to save them. And that book, God, that book just fucking destroys me every time. I hybrid read it, so I recently was able to begin reading again and get the movie player in my head, or a fraction of it anyways. And so what I will do is I will listen to a book while I'm driving, or while I'm at work, or walking, or cleaning. And when I'm able to sit, I will pick up the physical book and I will read it. In the last couple of chapters of this book I read, and I sat and blubbered like a bitch reading these last couple of chapters. I mean, it's funny. Sometimes you just ugly cry reading something, or watching something, or experiencing something. And it's amazing. It's amazing to me that a writer can write something that touches me emotionally in a way that it wrecks me fundamentally. I love it. That's why I love books and love people who write, because the people who write and create these books and write them, yes, they're doing it for money, but they're writing, there's always a semblance of something personal in every single book, whether it's loss or protectiveness of a child or any of these things. And they take from themselves and give of themselves in a visceral way in these books. I mean, you have some writers that just write fucking shit, just because they're good writers and they can just write. Kind of like George R.R. Martin, who's a fucking shitbag and writes fantastic things because he's a great writer, but he doesn't understand ebb and flow. So as far as I'm concerned, he's a fucking shitball, and I don't give a fuck if you like that opinion or not. But you have really gifted writers on the other side of that take something from within and give it to you with their writing. And that's amazing. So yeah, that's episode 18. 1, don't cut the tip of your finger off like I did. Be careful when you sharpen your knives. Otherwise, this can happen. 2, George R.R. Martin is a shitbag. 3, if you like fiction, do yourself a favor and read the Dresden Files. Because when you get to book 12 and you get to changes, you will not have realized how invested you are in the characters in the series until you're sitting there sobbing like a bitch, reading what he has to write. Yeah. Have a good night.